is the customer? Who is the supplier? Before you can define value from a customer's perspective, you must first understand who the customer is and who the supplier is. A customer is any party that receives or requests goods and/or services. The supplier provides or fulfills the customer's request. External customers are traditionally represented by an individual or an organization that pays you money. However, customers can be both internal and external. Let's look at each of these concepts to understand a little better. External customers are the customers that are outside of your organization. They pay your organization for a product or a service. Let's look at a basic model of a supply chain as an example. In the model, we see one echelon for suppliers, one echelon for consolidation warehouses, one echelon for a manufacturer, one echelon for a distributor, and one echelon for a wholesaler, and finally, one echelon for retailers. Retailers in this case buy from a wholesaler, distribution center, or other raw material suppliers. As you can see, these echelons are upstream from the customers. Thus, when an exchange occurs, the retailer pays the appropriate echelon in exchange for the service or product they are purchasing. There are two defining characteristics of the external customer. The first thing to understand is that an external customer is not the same organization as you. They are a separate entity, but they may reside in the same echelon or even in the same building. To put it simply, they are external of your entity. The second characteristic for an external customer is that there is an exchange of capital or the agreed upon cost for a specified service or product. The external customer pays for the service or product they are receiving. Internal customers are sometimes harder to understand than external customers. Not because the concept is difficult or overly technical, rather, because we do not look at our internal customers as customers. Instead, we see them as coworkers. The internal customer is the person within your organization that you pass your product or service along to. This can be inter-plant demand, inter-process demand, or even inter-operation demand. Let's look at an example to help us understand internal customers a little better. Here is a sample manufacturing process. The steps are pull raw materials from stock, then deliver the raw materials to the machining center. Next, load the raw materials onto the machine, then machine the part. When the part is done machining, remove it from the machine. Next, deliver the part to inspection and finally inspect the part. In this case, the individual who delivers the raw materials to the machining center is the internal customer of the individual who is pulling the raw materials from stock. Likewise, the person who pulled from stock and gave to the person delivering in steps 1 and 2 is an internal supplier. As you can see, even within the organization, we have internal suppliers and internal customers. With this basic understanding of who the customers and suppliers are, we can now begin to define what activities customers consider to be value added and non-value added. Now that you know exactly who the customer is, as well as the different types of customers, let's move on to the next lecture.